We started in Asia, then we arrived in Europe with the French market. Now we are going to listen to the neighboring market in Spain. What are the business or partnership opportunities? I have the pleasure to introduce the speakers of this afternoon, the director of the wholesale dealers of fish in Madrid, Sofia Brandão from a Poveira Canning Factory, Gabriel Ocanha from Interfish, and Mr. Bruno Coimbra from Geomar, and Pedro Barraco from Mercadona, Portugal. Welcome to this panel. Let's discuss about the opportunities and challenges of the Spanish market. I will start with you, Sofia, head of the marketing and external markets at a Poveira Canning Factory. It's a Portuguese project with Spanish capital. How was this project conceived and how has it evolved, having quickly grown from a SME to a large company? How it was designed in 2018, Poveira used to be a medium-sized company, the invoicing 25 million euros, and we were in a situation that we were not small but not yet large. So the managing board of the company had to decide if we had to take a step behind or to continue to grow. And for that, we would need huge investments. The truth is, partners and shareholders wanted to launch the company in the market through personal and family relationships. Mr. Cunha is the CEO of the company. One of the contacts were to the biggest group of cans in Europe, and I asked him if he wanted to acquire and buy the capital of the remaining shareholders, and he said yes, given the many family years of relationship, the owner of Frinza Group, and also the interest of Frinza to really enter the Portuguese market as a manufacturer. And very quickly and easily the acquisition was made. We started to work. The truth is, in 2019, as I said, we invoiced 25 million euros, 1,000 million euros, into the next year 35. Why? Because we made a huge effort in terms of investment in the factory, in new machines, new production lines, allowing us to start producing for foreign markets. Poveira at that time in 2019 invoiced 70% of its invoicing was in Portugal, 30% outside Portugal. Today, the opposite, 70% outside and 30% inside. So in Spain, the investment was big. Yes, we started to manufacture and sell a lot to Spain, and today they are our main market in terms of product manufacturing in our company. However, the investment made in production lines allow us to work to other markets. Until then, we were unable to do it. With this growth, accelerated growth, do you consider Poveira is in the pathway of becoming a giant of the canning sector in Portugal? Well, I don't like the word giant because it has not a positive connotation. Today, Poveira is the biggest manufacturer of cans in Portugal, both in number of cans and invoicing. In 2023, we invoiced 25,000 million euros, and this was a target in 2019 to reach 100 million in 5 years. We are today a big company of canning company in Europe. If we are going to become a giant, well, currently the objective is not to be negative, but we are already large in Portugal. We want to continue to grow. The strategy for the next years is consolidation. We aim to reach 200 million euros in 2025, but the aim is consolidation. But our characteristics, um, we are a responsive company. We respond very quickly to all market challenges. Having the need and having the market, if the customers so wish, we will grow even more. Despite the transformations of the company, the brand Minerva is still having visibility in gourmet and retail. How do you balance large scale production and the brand? Focusing specialities. I apologize to contradict you, but currently Minerva is not a brand focusing specialities. We remain strong in Portugal, but with tuna mainly. And of course, we maintain the range, a large range of specialities. The main products of Minerva are tuna and sardina, and then all the other small specialities. The focus is no longer specialities for us to be able to grow as a brand, because the canning fish market has a lot of consumption both in Portugal and abroad is tuna. Minerva is no longer a Portuguese, exclusively Portuguese brand. Minerva was the brand adopted by the group, by the group of Vieira Friese as an international brand. And to have a project of expansion of the brand in several markets, in European markets to start with, but also outside Europe. And once again, our main product is still tuna. We customize the brand to the markets, and in that regard, we are growing in all the markets, but mainly with tuna cans. Bruno Coimbra, speaking about Gelmar. Gelmar is one of the main species, pelagic species in Portugal, one of the biggest producers. What are the challenges you faced? Thank you. Gelmar is a strong player in all ports, and the Spanish market for us, who have increased grow a lot of in exports. We are also an export market. We have our own fleet, precisely, not only in frozen fish but also fresh fish. We have two factories of fish transformation. We manufacturing. We only work fish, and the Spanish market is very important for us. Not only in frozen fish, but also fresh fish, as I was saying, sardines and mackerel, two species which we have in our fish ports. They are very important to dynamize cost and fish fleet, with whom we are always side by side. We do 4,000, 5,000 boxes a day. And for Spain, we also have one of the points we distribute a lot with in Madrid and other markets. Logistics today, which is acquired or outsourced, not only as a fleet, as an outsourced fleet, it's very important and dynamizes the whole market, not only as some years ago, 3, 4 Spanish locations. We even today go to the clients' homes. In Iberia, in Portuguese and Spanish markets, the markets are different. So I conclude that for you there was no problem with integration. No, we are a 32-year-old company. We started with our grandparents. It's a family business. and we not only in selling but also in purchasing in all Spanish ports, not only to sell but also to buy. It's a permanent market for us. You still have room to grow. Yes, it is a market that has a very strong potential with approximately 4 times more population than Portugal. It is an energetic market that consumes a lot of fish. It's a market not only in terms of volume, they give a lot of importance to quality. It's a very interesting market for the companies who are already in the market or want to try and start. You spoke about sardine as being a very relevant product in your company. Your company is now under public consultation for certification, MSC. What is the importance in the Spanish market and how this certification may impact the sector and your activity? This certification is welcome. We had it before, but for difficult reasons we stopped for some years. We recovered given the effort of people who are here attending the meeting and others. It is a milestone for us to be able to get to European markets. We have always been committed to MSC standard. It is a strong future and we have to bet on it. So we hope we will have good news. Yes, according to information I've received, we are already with retroactive since January. So next year for sure we will have it. So this public consultation process will be okay. Pedro, Mercadona has been in a process of growth in Portugal. What are your current plans of the company to consolidate even more in the Portuguese market?
I'd like to thank the invitation to be here present at this Expo Fish Convention. Everything started in 2016 when we announced our expansion plan to Portugal. It's the first internationalization plan in Mercadona. We have 59 stores in Portugal right now. We expect to finish the year with 60. Everything started in the north in July of 2019, the first store opening up in Porto region, and we understood that it is an olive oil spread, so little by little it spreads. So now we're just missing the area around Alentejo and Algarve, so to the south. Do you know when you arrived there? No, we don't have that plan yet. We opened our first store in Alentejo. It's the most southern store that we have. The most northern we have is Viana do Castelo. Most southern is Évora. Now we plan to open 150 stores so we can consolidate our presence in Portugal. In Spain, we have over 1,500 stores. We believe that this project here in Portugal is moving really well. We had our logistic block in Almerim, which is a logistic mainframe to be able to spread products provide products to the whole of the country, because before the logistics was hard. One person had to go to different spots. So with this main port area of distribution, we'll be able to distribute in a much better way. Also for 2025, we'll be arriving in 2025 with an opening of the store in downtown Lisbon, which is just wonderful. Now, talking about the fishing industry, which is what interests us, what about how does Mercadona, which is a company all throughout the entire peninsula, How do you see the fishing market? Our idea is to be close to the end customer, and that gives us competitive innovation. We're able to innovate because we study the qualities that our end customer value from a cookie to a fish. And with that, we understand what the end customer values in the fish. Is it the color? Is it the overall look? And then with that information, we reach out to our providers for everything, fish and all other products. We are very, very close, but at the same time, different. This year, we had a specific case where we had the sardine campaign. We bought about 580 tons of sardine from different providers in Portugal. Often, the sardine we purchased wasn't exactly matched to the Portuguese desire. Here in Portugal, they prefer a little bit fatter, a little bit thicker sardine. In Spain, they value a thinner, more slim sardine. So the ones that were thinner went to Spain, the other ones came to Portugal. So we were able to manage our resources that way. Now, when we talk about codfish, the um, frozen and fresh fish, with all these products and its specificities, what are the trends for acceptance in Portugal and Spain? They are completely different markets. And when we arrived in Portugal, with the studies that we had for our customers, we understood that there were things that we had in Spain that we had to bring to Portugal, but there were things that we had to completely develop from zero. For example, space for dry codfish, for example, that doesn't really exist in Spain. So when you find those stands where you actually have that set for you to be able to put that specific fish, because here in Portugal, the end customer wanted that, so they could look at the fish in a specific way, get the cut they wanted, and then we do have that in some places. We've incorporated this design into our stores that are at the a border between Spain and Portugal as well. So in Spain, we've added that to some specific spaces, like in Galiza. But we also offer frozen codfish, may it be in different types of cuts and formats. So we did adapt a little bit or include a little bit of the Portuguese market in Spain. But in Spain, the fish that is sold is essentially fresh fish. And that does not happen in Portugal at all. And then we also noticed that in Spain, they really do value all the canneries so that you can use it. But here in Portugal, everything is concentrated very clearly in tuna fish. So our producers that are here watching, is it easy to arrive in Mercadona and say, this is our product? Yes, we have often many meetings here with Portuguese producers in the market for cannery, and we've been exploring all the opportunities. We're focused on the specific market, but we're always open to exploring new options and opportunities. So Julio Moreno is the president of the... I will now speak to you. I'm going to speak slowly because my Spanish, I don't think, is enough to ask you this question properly, but I believe you will understand if I speak very slowly, and we will for sure understand. Here, the most relevant market in the Iberic Peninsula, how is the fishing industry present? Well, first of all, thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation. I am the first woman president in our market. We are various companies. Almost of them are very family tradition companies. We work on fresh and frozen fish and also seafood in general. I do believe that there's already a connection between Spain and Portugal, as my colleagues mentioned. And for sure, we would be able to improve and broaden, for sure. I think that in between the associations, there are lots of synergies that could be created and developed in different ways. I don't know if people understand what I'm saying in Spanish. We speak, I think we don't speak Spanish well, but we understand everything. So now there are some of your products that are fresh. There's also frozen, of course, synergy between the companies with the frozen and fresh. And I am a consumer. In the aquaculture, I think in Spain, we don't have this culture, to be honest. We have for the sardine, as mentioned before. And now, as for wild fishery, we commerce 140,000 tons a year. Also, by the culture, the proximity, and because we have the same traditions in terms of eating habits and the wine and eating, having really vast and fulfilling meals. I think this was the first contact, and it won't be the last one for sure. And you will be invited to Spain, and we should continue working together. I believe there are so many products that you can develop for us, and we can develop for you. I think that's true, right? So I believe we can continue with the same development and developing these areas that we aren't really working well on. Almost everything that you see, how do you see the evolution, development of the markets for fishing? And also, what are your perspectives for evolution for the next few years? I believe tradition in fishing is never going to be lost or left behind, but I believe we have to adapt to the new consumers, the youth. They don't eat the fish like we did in the past, for example, with our mothers. None of them know how to cook because the market, that's the packaged market, or the individual pieces are already that you just stick into the microwave or into the simplest, the best. The way of consuming has changed, and but they're still consuming fish. Of course, in Spain, how can I explain this? We see that the consumption of fish is dropping. I don't think that's true. What I understand is that it's being consumed in different ways. So now, for example, and I think it's wonderful, they don't eat at home anymore because they don't even know how to cook it. So they go to a restaurant to eat fish. So we have to adapt ourselves to this new area, just like any other market or industry has to adapt because things are changing. Things are changing quickly. The phones don't last us a year, and you have to change, or we discard them and get a new one. So in the same way, we have to adapt, so that the store, so you can buy online, or the sales in this or that way. Often, if you have very, very large pieces, that's not going to sell. Now you see people breaking up into smaller and smaller pieces. You see a student, they won't buy a large fish because they'll probably not be able to use this. And even in some stores, they won't have a professional that is capable of really cleaning the fish properly and making the smaller portions. So we're just making things easier. We're adapting to the new era. Is that what you're saying? I'll speak it slower. We are adapting to the new era, new needs. That's what you're saying. Yes, correct. Do you think that there's lack of information? We could maybe have more information, let's say when we talk about Marca Madrid, regarding the Portuguese market. Do you think it would make it easier for Portuguese products to enter the Spanish market? I believe so. I believe there's lack of information. I believe there's lack of our governments that have a good relationship to put the companies in contact. I believe there's a lack of common forums and meetings not a forum in Spain for Spanish or one in Portugal for Portuguese. How about us? We had to, because we have this cultural synergy and we're so close physically, why don't we just don't bring one product from Spain to Portugal and Portugal to Spain? We should actually be working together much more. So, yes, almost like a single market. Yes, yes, thank you. Now, the Interfish president that works from the fishing to the wholesales. It's an interprofessional association with several different companies throughout the value chain. What are the main challenges and advantages to work in this sense? I thank you for the organization. As been said before, I think it's this closeness. What we wish is this closeness between both countries regarding fishery industry. And this, why am I here to talk about Interfish? What are we going to talk about? I think we could start from the beginning. Just like Portugal and Spain, in 1986 we entered the European Union together. And knowing this industry for over 40 years now. And I'm going to tell you my experience and why things are the way they are. My experience is the extractive industry was set through fishing associations and cooperatives, and then after 86 all these organizations organized themselves, and also the cooperatives and associations in Spain. I think we have 192 fishing organizations. One day I ran a simulation. If the fishing ministry of Spain made this pact with all of them, how many presidents of entities should he speak to? And the number was 432 posts that he would have to invite so that we could create a national pact. So in terms of a national pact, it seems like we still have to get there. Now, in terms of the geopolitical aspect of the extraction industry, it's one end, then we have the industry, and then the commerce, and then the frozen market, and the market of large surfaces, also the industry of the selling, and then the end customer. But there was something missing, a link, a glue, and this is called the interprofessional industries. Why? Because they exist in France already for many years now, and in Spain the law that organizes them is from 1986, and the fishing regulation is the regulation 1379, is already mentioning this interpersonal professional role person that would be there making this interconnection. So it's a premium format, but it's not authorized, hasn't been authorized yet. In Spain, we have the Interfish that was created in 2019, and the basic recipe is it's the union between a branch that is the industry. They always have to be there, and also the branch for industry and commercialization. What does this mean? There are two branches that connect at a point in order to discuss in a consensus and impact everything that refers to the species that are recognized. In our case, we are recognized for large surfaces, for swordfish, and 3 other fish. And it's just for these three that interests us. So we have to focus on those three species. And that's it. I don't know if I answered your question. Yes, you did. But what I was going to ask you is now, with your knowledge at hand for the Portuguese market, do you believe that this associative model, like the Interfish, would it be helpful, meaningful to Portugal? I would say yes. Yes. Now, please say more. Yes, because the production associations were missing this community role. They continue through the commercialization production roles and projects, so it needs them to leave and come and go back. We have to speak one with another, the association, the entity. We have to know how to produce this. So we need this role, this person that comes and goes with the information. We have 26 organizations from other types of products, with all different types of products like wine and olive oil and other things. In 2019, this was created, and what we limited ourselves to was to assess the market, to understand where we are, what happens to our products. In 2022, we got a hold of one of these studies, and we understood that Spain is a huge consumer. We consume a lot of fish, but then it seems that the word tintureiro, which I think is the same in Portuguese, they don't know this fish by this name. It's a specific name for the fish, so they do not know what it is that they are consuming because it has a different name. So first, market studies to understand what's going on. Then, to favor commercialization and production through the market. We have to be able to create new things for this end consumer who is changing. They're different now. So we have to do what's necessary for this new customer. Something else that's very important is the promotion. Promotion of our three species. We only promote for these three. I've brought some 30-second spots so that you can see, and I can show them when we have time for it. It's something simple, easy, loving, close to the consumer's heart, and also with two important things. One, bringing the information of health. We have to continue selling health. Fish is health. We have to have this. This was said to the production. You do not know what you have at hands. You have health tablets in your hands. You're selling health pills or tablets. And that is information. The second thing is we have to provide information of what our product is, how it's fished, how it's caught, how it's brought to the warehouses, how it's stocked, how it's packed, and everything else. So these are the benefits of an organization such as Interfish here in Portugal. What are the challenges and barriers? I don't see we are recognized by the agricultural ministry. And every year we have to go through, of course, a whole checklist and show them everything that we've used, everything we've produced. There is no difficulty. The difficulty is the wish from both branches to not be separated and create something together that actually does favor our species. Thank you. Any questions before we wrap up this panel about the insertion into the Spanish market? You can ask in Spanish or in Portuguese. I don't know if we're not having a lot of questions in Portuguese. I don't think we're going to have them in Spanish. But if anyone has anything to say or to ask, you could take the opportunity now. Sergio is not going to say anything this time, right? But Doca Pesca, do you also have the same understanding that I had here? Is this a market that's easier to get the insertion for the Portuguese? As we see it, and I'd like to go back to Bruno Coimbra's speech. For many of us, we see that it's not exportation, it's just a continuation of our normal market. And often, what we see, so you understand, for those that aren't aware, in Algarve, in the city of Vila Real de Santo Antonio, we have there uh, one of our providers that have specialized in seafood, and 80% of all of our consumers are Spanish. So this idea and understanding, and as we go up north, we understand that part of the octopus that's bought there are bought from Spain, and also where we have more expression for other types of fishery that are not open sea, like farming fish. I wouldn't be able to say to which market they arrive at the end market, but the understanding is that at the first wholesale, we have the presence of Spanish uh, buyers, and then also Portuguese buyers that also sell to Spain. So we have this connection. We also have vessels, and this happens often in our vessels, that have crossed capital. So these are Portuguese vessels, but the owner is Spanish, or the opposite. So I'd say that this Iberic integration does exist, because although we do have some differences in the way we consume or we eat the fish, we uh, really do enjoy this type of consumption. We don't make too much difference. Maybe we might just work a little bit on the integration, the information provided, but the integration actually does exist already. So these were three good examples, and we were talking about the best example, if you don't mind. There are a series of initiatives and fairs where we will be present, and we enjoy to go and really to understand how the fisheries and ports work in Spain. I think this connection is very important for us at Toca Pesca. I remember when Mercadona arrived here in Portugal, they came to talk to us to understand with Toca Pesca how the fishing market worked here in Portugal, how they would be able to insert themselves here as well. So there was this movement and this connection. So I think this is how we should move forward. Now to wrap up, Sophia and Bruno. Oh, we have another question, sorry. Could I add something? Yes, go ahead. There's very close proximity with Spain, because in Spain, sometimes you don't notice, but when we are in Portugal, we think Iberic. There is this normal extension of us that our blood is Spain. We understand it this way. Sometimes we feel a bit offended because we are very polite. But from the practice that we've been working for a long time with you, I think it's been a wonderful work that you've been executing and running. If there's something that we could do after your visit here, I would really enjoy and like to understand how we can collaborate so we can insert in your market, which is very strategic for our products, fresh or frozen. I think these are the most important topics or aspects. If there is something that we can do, we would really like to understand, because we are interested in gaining this market. We are both in the most important places in Europe, in Barcelona and in Vigo. When we go to Barcelona, we brought 20 companies that brought the Portuguese exportation to reach the highest numbers ever with this expansion. Thankfully, The companies are developing themselves and becoming more professional. They started out as small companies with 10 employees or 15. And now it's not what happened many years ago when I started. I think that now what happens in all other industries is the professionalization makes the connections easier, or any country, other countries as well. In the past, it was unthinkable to bring shrimp from Argentina, but now it's possible, both for us and you. So I think it's not something that we just have to give up. No, I think we have to continue trying, and I am determined. I am sure that we will be able to get there. I am the first woman president of industry that is majoritively dominated by men. I am the second generation in the industry, and for my father, who is now 90 years old, he said to me, this was unthinkable, and it's still unthinkable, the commercial relationships that we have with third world countries. So I'd like to invite you to not give up, for you to see that, yes, we are becoming more professional and the relationships are getting tighter and closer. As a company owner, we keep a commercial relationship with some Portuguese companies for years and years, and we have no issues. It's wonderful, both to import and export. I have a very close relationship with a company called Madrid. We've been working together for years and years without any problems, I'm sure. I'd like to say the last question here that I'd like to ask Bruno for all the experiences that they've brought, and I'm happy that they are successful experiences for those who are with us online, who are not yet in the market or wish to, maybe in a smaller scale still. What is the main suggestion? Well, in the case of Poveda, our entry into the Spanish world realm was much easier because we are part of Spanish company, but we were only able to enter this market once we'd adapted our products to the Spanish market, because just as we mentioned, although we are neighbors, our consumption habits are extremely different. Even in Spain, between regions, it's different. In our specific case, with the cannery tuna market is characteristic and different from other countries. We are the only country, with exception of some African countries, that consume tuna fish in a format just like sardine. In no other place in the country, in the world, really, this happened. So we had to adapt our production to the formats that are consumed in Spain and other countries as well. So to be able to conquer this Spanish market or any other, we'll have to adapt to those consumption practices. And now, Bruno, main suggestion for those who want to enter this market. It's so close, so similar, but at the same time, so different. Very similar, very alike. But suggestion I give is just take the first step, risk. Let's be there face to face. The trust within the fishing market is, if not the most important one of, just like Luis Silverio mentioned, the fresh fish and also the thicker fish that are all canned. There is no standard for the price. It just goes up and down. It's the fish from that day, it's fresh. The amounts go up and down. The price go up and down due to that offer. So the amount that you'll buy, the price you'll buy on this or that day is also up and down. So everything is based on trust. A trust, face-to-face relationship, and positioning towards the future where ties are made, not only for purchasing but also selling. So these are mutual relationships, and that's how they they are really. And how is this? Do you think it's easier? It's not like Japan, right? That you have to create a huge plan, detailed plan. Yes, for sure. I think the fact that we are close physically does help and makes us more close, really closer culturally. Thank you so much. A warm round of applause.
Now we are going to start a new market, a new continent in the American continent, but through something very similar, the language. We are going to speak about the Brazilian market, a market that is very key in the fishing sector. Two speakers are with us remotely. Arimar Filho from Produmar is one of them, and another one, Silvio Carlos from the Secretariat of Economic Development of Ceará. And with me on stage, we have Miguel Marques, consultant specialized in the blue economy. I think he is also here. He's remotely with us, or he will come in person. So let's start. I would like to start with him, but if he's not yet, I'm going to introduce him. I introduce Silvio Carmo from the Executive Secretariat the of Ceará, Secretariat of Economic Development of Ceará. Good afternoon, welcome. What is the situation, current situation in the commercial relationships between the state of Ceará and Portugal? Good afternoon, everyone. I am speaking from Fortaleza, the capital city of Ceará. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to participate. Ceará and Portugal are trade partners for many years, and we have been increasing our relations. We have several investments, mainly, and I'm speaking about the energy, renewable energies. So the state has received investments in renewable energies and tourism, and in many other actions, commercial actions with Portugal. Ceará state is the state that is closer to Portugal. We have a port infrastructures in Portugal, a state-of-the-art port, and we have also direct flights to Lisbon by TAP, and this has favored very strong dynamism with the state. We have two ports in Fortaleza, the Fortaleza and the Pecém ports. The Pecém port belongs to the state of Ceará. They have been doing a very strong logistics for several countries in Europe and mainly to Portugal. And we have big investments also together with the Chamber of Commerce, Brazil and Portugal, who have really worked hard with the entrepreneurs in Ceará. The Ceará is the biggest state of all the Brazilian states that exports fish. I would like to underline shrimps, red fish. We also have tuna and the ornamental fish. The last year, we exported more than $80 million of fish, making Ceará the biggest state of the Brazilian Federation that exports fish. So it is a sector that has attracted, and the tourism also, nautical tourism. attracting the amateurs of kite surf. They find in Ceará the perfect location for the practice. Now I would like to ask you as follows. What are the perspectives, future perspectives, to strengthen these commercial links, starting with what we have discussed today, fisheries? Well, the future perspective is today Brazil cannot export fish to Europe. We still can't. This is being discussed. Even today, right now, there is an event being held here in Fortaleza, being an event promoted, sponsored by the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries of Brazil to discuss the perspective of recovering the exports of fish to Europe. We have been speaking about with Miguel and Marcos. They have helped in this discussion and in this work for us to be able to export again. We have, in addition to fisheries, aquaculture, production of shrimps that can be exported. And this is a need that the Ceará state has. The more we export to Europe, the better. We are the first in the Brazilian states, but to other countries. And from the perspective of imports from Portugal, it's big because we have the Portuguese food is quite fashionable here at Ceará, and we have imported a lot from Portugal. Codfish and other fish, because we really enjoy the Portuguese products. Now, what do we expect to have this extra work that the European could also understand and buy our fish? What is the dynamics that you would like to see in the near future between the entrepreneurs from Portugal and the entrepreneurs from the state of Ceará? What could be done? I believe that the first step is to have this discussion that the Brazilian fish eh, can be exported to Europe, and it opens up trade relations between Portugal and Ceará and the Brazilian government as a whole, but mainly the Ceará state, for us to be able to do this work. We would like to increase the demand of fish, of Portuguese fish here to the state, increasing and opening the trade relations that favors. We, it's not a one-way business. We can also have Portuguese fish. We already have good Portuguese fish here in Fortaleza, in our capital city, demanding all of them full, completely full. The Portuguese restaurants are always full, even during weekends. The locals love Portuguese fish. I believe that if we open up these trade relations and if we can export Brazilian fish to Europe, we may increase our trade relations as well. I already have with me Mr. Marques. Miguel, welcome. Miguel has developed a number of activities together with the Portuguese companies, the Portuguese state, and the Brazilian government, namely the state of Ceará. Could you please give us an overview of this and how these are impacting the commercial relations. Thank you very much for the invitation and for the question. I cannot speak about everything given the time that I have. I'm going to give you a medium-sized perspective. The Brazilian market is not easy, but the European market for the Brazilians, it's not easy as well. As underlined by Silvio Carlos, and thank you for stopping the meeting they are holding in Brazil to discuss this strategy to mutually open the doors. It doesn't make sense for the US buy from Brazil, Japan buy from Brazil, and Europe cannot buy from Brazil. Why is that important for the Portuguese and the European? We saw the figures. We have deficit of raw materials. We have deficit of complementarity in species at medium term with the population growing up, with the work that everyone has done. We have gained more value, so there will be a big appetite for good quality fish. José Correia knows very well the French market, and he said clearly that at the end of the day, the Europeans are becoming buyers. And as you can see in Europe, the theme is to have different nationalities buying in Portugal. So there is a need for raw materials. As explained by Silvio Carlos, the seafood, the natural production of lobster, it's a different lobster. We have here specialists. We cannot compare what is not comparable, but the need to consume lobster across the globe is so big that all the lobsters, fresh lobsters, are good and have their price. In the case of Northeast, they have a bigger production. They are bigger, even bigger than the whole Portuguese territory. It's not by chance that the Portuguese are there to assessing the quality. Tuna, another fish that is consumed, that we need for our canning industry. More and more, there is a Japanese style consumption, sushi, sashi, and so forth. So tuna, together with salmon, is an important fish. So Europeans should face the American market or the South American market as a supplying market. Also, it was also discussed in previous panels that we have some manpower, namely in Ceará. 2 years ago, we had the opportunity to visit them. They have manufacturing factories. They have no problems in labor. So to deal with fish is not for everyone. So the geographies with more labor for this are very specific. For two reasons, there is a big advantage. What are the advantages for Brazil and Latin America? The aggregation of value. The aggregation of value in Latin America is now low, and if there is a champion in aggregating value in Europe, is Portugal. We have here many other producers here with us. Because why our trade balance is good? Because we buy a lot of cod fish. Our waters don't have cod fish. We consume and we create a new product. Dry cod fish is industrialized product. We, the Portuguese, and it's enough to speak about our families, we know a lot of species because we had a diversity for a low quantity. So, making this available to Latin America may help Latin America to gain value. In medium long term, not short term, there are cultural equalities and cultural differences with Brazil. One of the differences is the way we do business. In Brazil, they follow the American style, and how they socialize, they are more similar to Europe. So if we respect these dimensions, everyone has to benefit from. Marco will certainly speak about it as well. I don't know if you have a notion of the geographic size of Brazil. It's in the north and in the south. In the state of Rio Grande do Norte, Ceará, the two representatives of these states, Floripa, Santa Catarina, and other states, they are also good. Northeast are very similar to us in terms of logistics. In the first phase, we have a privilege, an entry door, and as said by Silvio Carlos, there is a willingness If we are going to bring these bureaucratic barriers down, I don't know. We will have to work for that. So that depends on the Brazilian side mainly to bring those barriers down. I couldn't put it that way. Well, it's not by chance that Silvia was invited to be here. Well, we have to be able to compare the realities. Brazil as a whole is compared to the European Union. And if we go to do business in Brazil, if we follow these dimensions, we don't do anything. We have to work with a specific state. This work, small work, is in a conference to try to convince the union of the willingness Ceará has to lead this process, and Rio Grande do Norte as well. And for us, Portuguese, we have to lead from this side, otherwise, the Spanish or the French will take over. So we will have to be able to open the door with Latin America. Those who will be able to make the bridge with them, they will have their benefits. Portugal has made efforts in this regard, but similarly to Ceará and Brazil, we could do better. There is a hope pending. And we are going to listen to Arimar Filho. Transformation and trade of fish. Good afternoon. Welcome. You have been very attentive, I have realized. You include production, manufacturing, and transformation. Could you please speak about these three activities?
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you for the invitation. The company is in the market for more than 50 years now. We work in a vertical process, mainly in the production of tuna and mackerel, uh, for the production of sushi and sashimi. Our colleague Carlos from Ceará is a very dear colleague of mine. We know their um, capabilities. The difference to my state here, Rio Grande do Norte, is that we are responsible for over the majority of the production of tuna fish for sushi and sashimi production. It's a very high added value fish. Apart from this, we're also within the lobster market, which the main consumer is in Asia. So it's the Chinese market that's the largest one, but we also have other markets in Asia. We work also with the redfish, and our main focus currently is really the integrated vertical production of tuna fish and similars. We import material, we import from Uruguay the catching, and we have 9 fishing vessels. And what's your commercial relationship from the company with Portugal? Is that existent? In the past, we exported shrimp in large amounts from shrimp farms to Spanish, Portuguese, and French markets. What's been spoken before since 2018, there was an issue, a political issue, I believe, and so exportations between Brazil and Europe the European community were just dismantled politically. A few months ago, we started to go back. We were inspected by the UK. That was the first large step throughout these last six years, and we are now waiting on the report from the UK so that we can go back to exporting to the UK, and then after that, next step is Europe. Last week, I was in a meeting with all the agricultural ministry, who have been really giving them their all so that this return to the export, this commercial relationship is recovered. And one of my main clients in Europe is a Portuguese man. He is currently one of he's probably there with you. His name is Josiani. He is one of the largest exports company to Europe from Portugal. But as Miguel said, it has to be bilateral. We can import from Portugal, but we want to export as well. And in the importing role of in your company, what is the role that you might have in the future once the whole issue is resolved? Well, Brazil is a country that's very large and the largest consumer of the fish production from Portugal are in the southeast of Brazil, because we are in the northeast region of Brazil, and Brazil is just an enormous array of taxes. We can't. It doesn't work. The math doesn't work. Mainly for the codfish markets are concentrated in south and southeast regions of Brazil, not here in the northeast. Okay, so now questions, anything, concerns? I don't see anyone with their hands up. Well, Sergio, he always has something to say, thank goodness. Can you hear me? I would just like to add one thing. When Manuel was mentioning, I think about 2, 3 years ago, we went on I guess, field trip to explore these possible commercial exchanges we could have between Portugal and the state of Ceará in Brazil. We found very interesting points, but we do have a barrier that we are trying to overcome. But at this point, there is this barrier from the European Commission blocking Brazilian products, which result from what are some things from the French producer in agriculture, and the possibility of maybe having to create a new deal with Mercosur. And our wish is to really make this connection, sometimes finds this barrier. The other thing that we tried is to create some type of pressure so that we could revert this somehow. But I do think that we have to continue with this dialogue, this conversation, because these are products that interest the Portuguese market. As we've seen, we don't produce enough that we need in terms of consumption. And on the other hand, the state of Ceará does have a whole set. I remember the octopus, for example. It was an issue really for the state of Ceará, because they end up eating part of the seafood that they have there available, and then so the octopus is eating part of the other production. So that would be something that would be interesting for them to export as well. Here we think that maybe we thought about opening up space with our standards and our eating habits and standards and everything being put, and so that's something that's underway. I think if we figure out this political aspect, we will be able to get there, yes. Arimar was talking about the northeastern region of Brazil. That's a great possibility for export, and for Portugal, it might benefit more from southern states. Does this make sense? Is that correct? I understand. It makes total sense. I know that in Expo Fish we have to talk about export, of course, but as we've seen here, we will not be able to export if we don't have the product to export. So what I'd like to lay out on the table is that the greatest asset that Portugal has is to know how to add value. So if we limit ourselves to add value to what we fish here, we run the risk of just being too tiny in the world and just throw out all this out the window. So what we think these are states from south and southeast, or when we talk about São Paulo, for example, that they consume and they actually do pay relatively well for their import. And also the difference in income in Brazil is something that is just in disadvantage and out of balance. if we have a small amount of protein, the European market pays better, it's really going to be hard to reinforce exportation to Brazil. So, what are the greatest assets that Brazil have in the Portuguese perspective? Of course, it's to supply Portuguese from these species that we don't have. And what Arimar was mentioned, that has an institute similar to what José Correa has here, but in Brazil, and it's verticalized. Why? Because the way Brazil works, it has to be verticalized. What means this means is that Brazil is also going to compartmentalize all of this. So as we see Brazil right now, as we watch Brazil, Brazil is going through this path of opening up to the external, to abroad. The youngest generation have studied abroad, so outside of Brazil. And what we're seeing, all of Europe is watching, is this enormous opening from Brazil to other countries and internationally. What this means is that there's going to be investment from Brazil in Europe. There is already this appetite formed. And as we know, Portugal does know how to add value. And so, what we should foresee is that in 1 decade, we're going to have buyers from Brazil in the market inserted. So, we do have to position ourselves in the chessboard. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Silvio Carlos and Arimar as well. I don't know if any of you would like to add anything. We don't have a lot of minutes. I would like to thank once again the invitation, and I am fully available. And the state of Ceará is a very welcoming, warm country, and we have our commercial relationship with Portugal should move forward in a positive way, and especially with the fishing industry. That's our expectation. Thank you. Arima, would you like to say something? Good afternoon, also in the name of Produmar and in the name of the state of Rio Grande do Norte. And thank your invitation. I'd like to say that, as Silvio mentioned, I forgot to mention, Rio Grande do Norte also has daily flights to Portugal. And I believe that this is a state that still has a lot to develop. Our fishery industry, the area we have for fishing is enormous, and we can still grow much, much more. So hand in hand with Portugal, I believe we can develop our fishing industry and as well as the consumer market, both for Portugal for our products as well as Brazil for Portuguese products. Thank you all three, and I wish all the best success for this work and partnership that you are building. And although there's a barrier, a political barrier there that I hope will change in the near future. Thank you so much, and a warm round of applause for all three. We are going to move forward. It's still in the American continent, now leaving south, moving forward to the north in the United States. And now we have several panelists. We have Campos Moura from ACEP, who is joining remotely. Here on stage, Luis Silverio from Luis Silverio and Filhos, Joshua Schwartz from Bella Brand Seafood, Tiago Quaresma from the group O Valor do Tempo. A warm round of applause to everyone. And those of you who are here, please come on stage. I don't see anyone walking up. I think I am going to have to start talking to Carlos Moura, who is online remotely with us. Well, no, not as well. Well, then, what do I do? Am I going to tap dance here? I don't know, but I don't know how to tap dance either. So, while Carlos Moura is not here with us, we are going to talk with Joshua Schwartz from Bella Brand Seafood. We are talking about a brand that is a reference to the cannery industry in the United States. How did this relationship start? There is translation. We are here. Joshua, can you hear us? Joshua? Joshua. This is the Portuguese interpreter. Can you hear us?
Vou voltar a fazer a pergunta. Estávamos a falar. We are speaking about a brand which is a reference in the US, the biggest importer of Portuguese cannery. How did it start your journey in the US market with a cannery company? Muito obrigada. Muito obrigada. Em primeiro lugar, gostaria de vos agradecer por terem-me convidado a participar neste painel. Espero que a informação seja útil, que todos estejam a ouvir. E aos tradutores, que tem sido apreciado, as informações sobre o Japão e do Brasil. Mas para responder à pergunta que me fez, começamos em 1997, em Olhão, no Algarve, e as conservas não eram produto.
With Conservas do Sul in the south. So a lot of this is relationship built, as some of the people alluded to earlier.
Mas porquê a sardinha portuguesa? Why the Portuguese sardine?
The Portuguese sardine is, I think it's well known. And what happens, I think what people say about Portugal is that the experience here when they come to Portugal, it's phenomenal. And I think that's important to get out of Portugal as well. When we were looking for a factory in the United States, we couldn't find one. And when we looked where should we go, the experience here in Portugal was phenomenal, both on a personal and a business professional level. And telling that story will be even more important moving forward. It's just a wonderful experience. So to translate that in food and tell the story of Portugal in food was important for us, and I think it will be one of the high points moving forward for Portugal.
E a aceitação no mercado norte-americano foi superior ao que esperavam? How was accepted the product in the North American market?
Yeah, it was challenging at the beginning. Mostly for the first 10 years, it was a challenge to build a brand, the same that you might have here in Portugal and in Europe. Building a brand in the United States is challenging. But as we were able to tell the story, and Portugal was able to tell the story, there are more tourists here in Portugal, it became easier for us. And once we gained traction, it really took off. So the first 10 years were a challenge. And then we gained traction, and we can rely on tourism here in Portugal and people having the experience here and translating that to the United States. It's been easier. Certainly the pandemic forced people to try canned food, and this was a huge experience, and I think canned food will continue to grow exponentially.
By the way, there is a projection for annual growth, 4% of the cannery industry in the US.
You're connected now?
we were speaking about a growth. There is a growth that will approximately amount to 4% in the US. Do you think your operation is going to be able to follow this growth expectation?
Yes, the 4% I think actually is an underestimate of the growth. Why? I think once,
Será superior.
yeah, oh, I think it will be maybe double. Uh, yeah,
8%, the
yeah.
double.
I think once people were forced to try the product, the canned food, and I say forced. During the pandemic, people were fearful of what they could buy and what they could eat, so they bought canned food to put in the pantry, to put as a safe food. And once their pantry was full, they tried it. And they found out, wow, this is really delicious, like really, really good. It wasn't the expectation that I had. So we have seen in the last 5 years, 4 years, that the growth of canned food and sardines specifically has been somewhere about 6 to 8%. And while fresh and frozen have struggled in the United States, canned fish has grown 8% year over year over year. So I anticipate it will grow even more for a longer period of time. And a lot of this we are planning to do not only with sardines and some of the infrastructure that is happening here, MSC coming back to Portugal, we hope, but also with species proliferation. So not only sardines, but cavala. People are experiencing mackerel.
Que estratégias é que nesta altura
What strategies are now being put in place to really meet this growing demand and to really stimulate this market in the US?
I think part of it is we have some friends here that made a big investment to tell the story. I think a lot of the relationships between U.S. and Portugal are being increased and normalized. I would love to see if I have any recommendation would be there is a tariff on sardines from Europe that is about 15% for non-smoked, and it will be an issue coming up in the new election in the new president. But this has been an antiquated thing for about 40 years, and this would help to stimulate sales. But really, the infrastructure is there to grow at the 8% and more. So it's not just an infrastructure, it's the availability of MSC sardines, the transition to MSC cavala, the availability of other products. Pate is just becoming known.
acredita que há espaço
So you believe there is room for growth of our products from Portugal to the US?
Exactly, without doubt, yes.
Thank you so much. Nós vamos falar.
We are going to speak with Pedro because we still don't have Carlos Moura to speak to us. I'm seeing him already. I believe you are there. Yes, I believe so. Thank you very much for being with us. I will start by asking you, because we are speaking about such a huge market as the US and has a privileged positioning regarding our market. What is the current condition of the trade relation between the US and Portugal, and what are the perspectives for the for bringing closer those links? Good morning from New York. Good afternoon in Portugal. I would like to thank the invitation from AICEP to participate in Expo Fish Portugal. Thank you very much for this permanent collaboration. I'm the director of AICEP in the US, based in New York, and replying to your question, the state of the trade relations between Portugal and the US. It is a very, very good condition, very favorable, and trade balance between Portugal and the US has always been favorable over the last years with trends of growth. I will not give you much figures, but two or three data that is important to say. In 2021, Portugal would export 3.5 billion to the US, 5 billion, and we are speaking about a very big growth of Portuguese exports to the US. US account for the fourth stimulant of export. The US has been uh, gaining space in the Portuguese trade balance and in the Portuguese companies. We have been seeing an increase of the companies that export. More than 4,000 companies, Portuguese companies that export to the US. What may happen in the future? The future commercial figure will depend on the policies taken from January. The next US administration speaks about an increase in tariffs, but until now, we don't know. 10, 20% to all partners or higher for Canada and Mexico, but before it is enforced, we cannot guarantee anything. So this from the point of view of the relationships between Portugal and the US regarding specifically the sector and the industry and the fish. What can I say? Right now, the US are the biggest fish importers, always growing in terms of consumption. Our products are imported. So there is an expectation for the Portuguese companies. Portugal is still a residual supplier, accounts for the position 38, 40 of supplier of fish to the US. And Canada, Norway, and Mexico come first with high rates, with tradition of selling in the US market. What can I say about this sector in two or three lines? It is a very regulated sector. It was already mentioned there. Many agencies that have this connection, controlling fish, many agencies connected to controls of fish, and it is very important to really know the procedures, the tariffs, the certificates regarding fish export to the US market. Portugal has been growing in exports to the US and also exports of fish. From 2023-24, exports of this product to the US increased 36%. Maybe there is here a trend to really damage the Portuguese consumption, but many other communities here consume a lot of fish in this market. We are speaking about good growing rates and good future perspectives. In your position of delegate of AICEP, what can we do to promote the Portuguese fish in the US? This is a question that has several answers. What could I say or list or give you as a more effective strategy to be successful in the US market? The US consumption market is considered to be the biggest in the world, with high purchase power, a lot of offer, good competition. The purchasing power is very high, but we are speaking about a country with more than 350,000 million inhabitants, with 50 states, with different standards of consumption, namely regarding fish. The US are big, so there are many opportunities. What could I list as a strategy for entry in the US? The first issue has to do with regulation, rules and standards and regulations, to understand export rules from the Portuguese side, be it from the American side, imposition of records in the Food Drugs Administration, FDA, to do exports according to the market requirements, be it in registering the products or the package or the criteria that the market requires. On the other hand, to really understand the market needs, to understand what the market looks for, what are the products Portugal has more capacity, and in which regions in the US, to have good distribution channels with good importers, good distributors, with good groceries chains, to have good relations with these operators. And regarding production and marketing of the product, it is important to promote, publicize the Portuguese product. The image is good, so I would like to make a note. Over the last 5 years, these 5 years have been key for Portugal in the US market. Today, Portugal has a very good image in the US. It's very trendy, Portugal in the US. Everyone speaks about Portugal. Started with tourism, and it starts to get to the investment, and we are in a good time to promote Portuguese products in the US. At the same time, I would like to say that this promotion is not cheap. It is a very competitive market, and there is a need to give visibility to this production, local production. What do I suggest at the same time? Participation in events in the American market. There is a big event associated with fish in Boston, which is the Seafood Expo North America. It's a good fair to have new connections with purchasers and market players. It's important to attend this fair and to attend all the fairs and events organized locally. Maybe what support could you give to these Portuguese companies that would like to adventure themselves in this new market? The first answer is to have ISAP delegations in the American market. We have 3 delegations in the US, one in New York, one in Chicago, and another one in San Francisco. The first thing is to use our delegations. We have a network in the US. Secondly, what do these delegations can do? Provide essential information to any Portuguese producer willing to export, trend analysis, information about products, everything associated with regulations, without forgetting the actions that the Portuguese companies may wish to develop locally. And we have a big, skilled team in Portugal. Our client managers who support the companies in Portugal before this commuting to the US, be it information, be it in Portugal, in the US, be it in the headquarters in Portugal, in Lisbon, in Porto. They are skilled and prepared to provide information. Now, speaking about the founder and manager, welcome. The Luís Figueira and Filhos company's headquarters in Nazaré sees the US as an important export country. Could you please tell us the experience could serve as an inspiration to those who would like to also go to the US? Thank you very much. This experience started in 1984 with the export of fresh fish to New Orleans, mainly fresh sardines and other fish. To New Jersey And also we have clients locally. We started to prepare everything to send there. We still work after 40 years with the same client. How can you do that? To arrive there, it's not easy, and to be 40 years in business with the same client, because we used to sell a lot until till the New York airport. It was easier before. Now it's more difficult because planes are smaller. Because before we would fill up a container with fish and sand. Now everything is more difficult. They have to load them with their own hands. We export every Wednesdays and Saturdays. With the increase in the cost of transportation, for instance, 1 kilo of sardine costs €1 and something, €3 and a half is the cost per kilo for transportation. With every expenses, it gets there at $7, $6, $7 per kilo. We would sell 300 boxes of sardine, and today we don't sell more than 100. Given the increase in the costs, the transportation increased, so the end product is very expensive nowadays. For the Scandinavian to eat, now it's very expensive. For 4 decades already, I'm amazed. We are expanding your network. We start to expand to Boston as well. We have already there a client for 4 years, and to sell to the Portuguese market, local market. What are the main difficulties you came across? It's transportation. Transportation is the most difficult thing. How can you solve that? Well, we proposed to TAP. We made a movie with TAP with sardines during St. Anthony festivity. We made a movie. The theme was fisheries. There was a team recording the movie in Peniche. They filmed the products, the loading of the product in the plane, and the arrival in New York. And the Americans were eating sardines, but they didn't know how to eat it. And now Portuguese locals were teaching them how to eat sardines. The Portuguese had to teach them because they didn't know. They would eating
It's true.
the skin, the bones, everything. Everything was delicious. It was a promotion that Bruno, the director of TAP, the sardine would always get there. It's a show-off thing because things are not precisely like that. Well, let's speak with Tiago Quaresma as well. He is already waiting for a long time, director of Valor do Tempo, with a cannery factory in Mortosa. Tiago, these shops have brought Portugal, the Portuguese name, abroad. 1 year after the opening of the store in New York. Tell us your experience.
Good afternoon. It's been a wonderful experience. I'd like to gather the examples that were given here as well. We talked a little bit about tourism, and I think tourism was put in a perspective that we never understood. Is tourism as a promoter of our economy, and this is absolutely rare to talk of regarding tourism. We only talk about tourism usually, and it's most common sense, hotels and taxis and things like that. But today we saw an excellent example that that's not really how it happens. Tourism has been excellent, really, in promoting Portugal and what we do here. So this is an important note that I'd like to mention. Another thing I'd like to mention is a little bit of history. That's what we were doing in the beginning. We have cannery manufacturer here. We've had over 400 sites. Now we have less than 20. But when we purchased the cannery 10 years ago, we went to see why. Why did this eclipse happen in such a strong and famous uh, industry, the cannery here? So how does this happen? Cannery and Portugal, it's like watches to Switzerland and shoes to Italy is the cannery industry for us. So it's an industry that's not really being making the most of currently in terms of spreading the word. So I think it's important to tell the story, the history, to those who visited us. We always told the story, our history, and that was important for us, and that's how we, in a way, spread the word, how we called and drew attention to it, to be able to tell what is behind a can. It's decades, centuries of history of an enormous industry that's socially really profound and deep. And it was the first emancipation of the woman here in Portugal, because it was women in land and men out in sea. And so, in terms of history, it's a lot more than a can in the supermarket shelf. And I think that's important to explain to this. But there's an expression that I think is important, which is always to seek this added value, to spread the message of who is and what is on the other side of this product. Yes, 100% of what we produce is sold in our own stores. We only sell 100% of our production only in our stores. Our can is now 12 euros, and that's the price, and I think that's what it should be, because the product is an adjective really of what we are. We are a product of this, even if we don't want to recognize. The incursion to Times Square happened around 2023 with the same principles and core idea to present to the American market consumer. They already had appreciation for it, but to present this in a more provocative way in Times Square as center, the core of the most important city of the United States, maybe the world, to sell our canned products and sardines. And the question is maybe why. People ask why, and we say why not. So it's been going well. We've been developing well. In Times Square, it's probably not the cheapest place. No, it's the most expensive in the planet, I believe. It's the opposite, but that's the question we're asking. People asked us why, and we'd say why not. And now a year and a half, maybe later, I think with a good expression, commercial expression, we also have an e-commerce. So we have these two sides to it, these two outlets to it, the online and the physical store. And I think the exception in the market has been enormous, really. The other thing that I would like to add to it is that the fact that I think they don't know exactly how to consume it, how to eat it specifically. But in the 60s, the United States already one of the largest markets consuming our canned products. The version without the spine, and the canned product without the spine can only be made by hand. And this is something that we're valuing. The handmade products, we're still the only one of the few countries that know how to really seriously and professionally make this handmade product. So as things are going well, what are your expansion plans? I will answer that. One of our greatest learned lessons are the relationship with the workforce. We have a lot of collaborators, not only the factories, but also a lot of retailers, the retail stores. I would able to say I was happy in the United States where we could, if when the person it doesn't work well, we just sent them off It's not wrong, but it means that people don't adapt. They're not able to adapt to that workforce. But here we do depend on the selling workforce. So the aggregated value that there is to the person who is selling, the person who is there being your face, really be able to wear your hat. So here, I think there's not a lot of liberty really for you to be able to work, but I think we choose. I have chosen. I will choose 20 times our workforce here with all its limitations regarding law, but we will be there really working on that workforce so that they are better and better. I prefer this than to the American market where you can just, let them go, dismissing everyone. Our strategy is very clear. We don't want to do in the United States what we did here in Portugal with retail work. We opened one in Times Square. We will open 3 or 4 more in the United States. But we are going to work on the e-commerce in the United States. That's our strategy. We've sold in our online store in November 34 different states in the United States. So it's enormous impact. And Times Square, we really wanted because Times Square is a common destination to all the Americans in the United States. Everybody goes to New York and everybody goes to Times Square. So we decided to have a more touristic look to this. We didn't want to communicate just to the New Yorkers. We wanted to present ourselves to the whole of the market. That's why we chose Times Square. And so we think about having strategic stores and then focus on e-commerce. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you for the audience, those who are here present. I would like now to stop here with this conversation unless you have a question for our guests. No surprises. No one raised their hands. Thank you. Thank you for being here. A warm round of applause. We will now move into our last pause, coffee break, and then shortly we will have a panel with the summary of the entire day, the representatives of all the associations that have been here present throughout the day. I will also like to call your attention. I will be here in the last panel, but I'd like to call your attention to tomorrow, where we will have the attribution of the Innovation Award with a jury that have very important people like Dr. Calhão, who is here with us, the professor, and we'll be able to assess this. We'll pause briefly for 15 minutes and come back for the last panel.
Ao mar não interessa a cor da pele, nacionalidade ou religião. Todas aceitam nas suas águas.
Quando o respeitamos, ele olha por nós. Ele olha por todos de forma igual. Ao mar não interessa o gênero, idade ou estudo social. Ao mar só interessa a vida.
Para do que pesca, respeitar o mar é também respeitar a diferença.
E todos tratar com igualdade, sem discriminação.
É assim a pesca. E eu sou pesca.
Eu sou pesca.
Eu sou pesca.
Eu sou pesca. Eu sou pesca.
Eu sou pesca.
E eu sou pesca.
Doca Pesca. Somos todos pesca.
Está presente na Declaração Universal dos Direitos Humanos, no Pacto Europeu para a Igualdade entre Homens e Mulheres, na Constituição da República Portuguesa e no Código do Trabalho Português. Contudo, 46% dos empregadores portugueses afiançam que ainda há muito caminho por fazer para conquistá-la inteiramente. Falamos da igualdade de género. Esse direito humano essencial que garante que homens e mulheres tenham as mesmas oportunidades, os mesmos direitos e o mesmo tratamento justo em todas as esferas da vida, onde se inclui o trabalho. As mulheres são o grupo mais prejudicado neste contexto, mas a verdadeira inclusão também tem em conta as injustiças direcionadas aos homens. Na Doca Pesca, a igualdade de género é um valor inteiro que abraça todas e todos de forma igual. Combatemos a discriminação com políticas de integração que asseguram a igualdade de acesso a todos os nossos trabalhadores e trabalhadoras para que alcancem o seu pleno potencial, sempre com respeito pelas suas necessidades e circunstâncias particulares. Como uma bandeira, a igualdade é o ADN da Doca Pesca e todos ficamos a ganhar. Vivemos a era 4.0. A tecnologia está presente em todos os campos da nossa vida numa metamorfose veloz, batizada de inovação. Contudo, enquanto neste mundo ultra-digitalizado quem domina as ferramentas tecnológicas é rei, quem não mergulha inteiramente na avalanche tecnológica sofre discriminação pela sua literacia digital. Na Doca Pesca, o preconceito não tem lugar e fazemos das diferenças a nossa força. Diariamente, apostamos na literacia digital, dotando os nossos trabalhadores com competências técnicas e críticas para que usem de forma produtiva todas as ferramentas tecnológicas do nosso ecossistema organizacional. É com orgulho que também destacamos o espírito de cooperação vivido entre as nossas pessoas que não deixam ninguém para trás. Na Doca Pesca, acompanhamos o ritmo do futuro, respeitando o ritmo de cada um, pois acreditamos que a verdadeira evolução só se conquista com a inclusão.
Há mais de 200 espécies de pescado, todos tão bons que é difícil escolher. Para preparar assim ou assado, aqui ou em qualquer lado. Para quando há pouco tempo ou todo o tempo do mundo. Para quando está sozinho ou acompanhado. Para todos os dias ou para momentos especiais. O peixe da nossa costa é saboroso, saudável e sustentável. Peixe fresco português, nada melhor. Em Portugal, há mais de 200 espécies.
Se nós não formos cuidar do mar, depois onde é que vamos tirar a nossa rentabilidade para as nossas casas? Acho que é um bom projeto e devem todas as embarcações aderir ao projeto.
Aqui em Peniche os pescadores estão-se a juntar a esta iniciativa. Juntos vamos conseguir reduzir esta quantidade de lixo no mar e depois espalhar a mensagem para o nosso país e temos uma força muito grande aqui em Portugal para o combate ao lixo marinho. quer dos pescadores, quer nós, sociedade, e sobretudo dos ecossistemas que existem. E, portanto, ao contribuirmos para uma melhoria desses ecossistemas, melhoramos toda a cadeia.
Ao mar não interessa a cor da pele, nacionalidade ou religião. Todas aceitam nas suas águas.
Quando o respeitamos, ele olha por nós. Ele olha por todos de forma igual. Ao mar não interessa o gênero, idade ou estudo social. Ao mar só interessa a vida.
Para a Doca Pesca, respeitar o mar é também respeitar a diferença.
E todos tratar com igualdade, sem discriminação.
É assim a pesca. E eu sou pesca.
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 Doca Pesca. Somos todos pesca.
Está presente na Declaração Universal dos Direitos Humanos, no Pacto Europeu para a Igualdade entre Homens e Mulheres, na Constituição da República Portuguesa e no Código do Trabalho Português. Contudo, 46% dos empregadores portugueses afiançam que ainda há muito caminho por fazer para conquistá-la inteiramente. Falamos da igualdade de género. Esse direito humano essencial que garante que homens e mulheres tenham as mesmas oportunidades, os mesmos direitos e o mesmo tratamento justo em todas as esferas da vida onde se inclui o trabalho. As mulheres são o grupo mais prejudicado neste contexto, mas a verdadeira inclusão também tem em conta as injustiças direcionadas aos homens. Na Doca Pesca, a igualdade de género é um valor inteiro que abraça todas e todos de forma igual. Combatemos a discriminação com políticas de integração que asseguram a igualdade de acesso a todos os nossos trabalhadores e trabalhadoras para que alcancem o seu pleno potencial, sempre com respeito pelas suas necessidades e circunstâncias particulares. Como uma bandeira, a igualdade é o ADN da Doca Pesca e todos ficamos a ganhar. Vivemos a era 4.0. A tecnologia está presente em todos os campos da nossa vida numa metamorfose veloz, batizada de inovação. Contudo, enquanto neste mundo ultra-digitalizado quem domina as ferramentas tecnológicas é rei, quem não mergulha inteiramente na avalanche tecnológica sofre discriminação pela sua literacia digital. Na Doca Pesca, o preconceito não tem lugar e fazemos das diferenças a nossa força. Diariamente, apostamos na literacia digital, dotando os nossos trabalhadores com competências técnicas e críticas para que usem de forma produtiva todas as ferramentas tecnológicas do nosso ecossistema organizacional. É com orgulho que também destacamos o espírito de cooperação vivido entre as nossas pessoas que não deixam ninguém para trás. Na DOCA Pesca, acompanhamos o ritmo do futuro, respeitando o ritmo de cada um, pois acreditamos que a verdadeira evolução só se conquista com a inclusão.
Em Portugal, há
Vivemos
mais de
a era
200
4.
espécies de pescado. Todos tão bons que é difícil escolher. Para preparar assim ou assado. Aqui ou em qualquer lado. Para quando há pouco tempo ou todo o tempo do mundo. Para quando está sozinho ou acompanhado. Para todos os dias ou para momentos especiais. O peixe da nossa costa é saboroso, saudável e sustentável. Peixe fresco português, nada melhor. Em Portugal, há mais de 200 espécies.
Se nós não formos cuidar do mar, depois onde é que vamos tirar a nossa rentabilidade para as nossas casas? Acho que é um bom projeto e devem todas as embarcações aderir ao projeto.
Aqui em Peniche, os pescadores estão-se a juntar a esta iniciativa. Juntos vamos conseguir reduzir esta quantidade de lixo no mar e depois espalhar a mensagem para o nosso país. E temos uma força muito grande aqui em Portugal para o combate ao lixo marinho. É de todos, quer dos pescadores, quer nós, sociedade, e sobretudo dos ecossistemas que existem. E, portanto, ao contribuirmos para uma melhoria desses ecossistemas, melhoramos toda a cadeia.
interessa a cor da pele, nacionalidade ou religião. Todas aceitam nas suas águas.
Quando o respeitamos, ele olha por nós. Ele olha por todos de forma igual. Ao mar não interessa o gênero, idade ou estudo social. Ao mar só interessa a vida.
Para a Doca Pesca, respeitar o mar é também respeitar a diferença.
E todos tratar com igualdade, sem discriminação.
É assim a pesca. E eu sou o pesca.
Eu sou 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 pesca.
E eu sou pesca.
Doca Pesca. Somos todos pesca.
Está presente na Declaração Universal dos Direitos Humanos, no Pacto Europeu para a Igualdade entre Homens e Mulheres, na Constituição da República Portuguesa e no Código do Trabalho Português. Contudo, 46% dos empregadores portugueses afiançam que ainda há muito caminho por fazer para conquistá-la inteiramente. Falamos da igualdade de género. Esse direito humano essencial que garante que homens e mulheres tenham as mesmas oportunidades, os mesmos direitos e o mesmo tratamento justo em todas as esferas da vida onde se inclui o trabalho. As mulheres são o grupo mais prejudicado neste contexto, mas a verdadeira inclusão também tem em conta as injustiças direcionadas aos homens. Na Doca Pesca, a igualdade de género é um valor inteiro que abraça todas e todos de forma igual. Combatemos a discriminação com políticas de integração que asseguram a igualdade de acesso a todos os nossos trabalhadores e trabalhadoras para que alcancem o seu pleno potencial, sempre com respeito pelas suas necessidades e circunstâncias particulares. Como uma bandeira, a igualdade é o ADN da Doca Pesca e todos ficamos a ganhar. Vivemos a era 4.0. A tecnologia está presente em todos os campos da nossa vida numa metamorfose veloz, batizada de inovação. Contudo, enquanto neste mundo ultra-digitalizado quem domina as ferramentas tecnológicas é rei, quem não mergulha inteiramente na avalanche tecnológica sofre discriminação pela sua literacia digital. Na Doca Pesca, o preconceito não tem lugar e fazemos das diferenças a nossa força. Diariamente, apostamos na literacia digital, dotando os nossos trabalhadores com competências técnicas e críticas para que usem de forma produtiva todas as ferramentas tecnológicas do nosso ecossistema organizacional. É com orgulho que também destacamos o espírito de cooperação vivido entre as nossas pessoas que não deixam ninguém para trás. Na Doca Pesca, acompanhamos o ritmo do futuro, respeitando o ritmo de cada um, pois acreditamos que a verdadeira evolução só se conquista com a inclusão.
Há mais de 200 espécies de pescado, todos tão bons que é difícil escolher. Para preparar assim ou assado. Aqui ou em qualquer lado. Para quando há pouco tempo ou todo o tempo do mundo. Para quando está sozinho ou acompanhado. Para todos os dias ou para momentos especiais. O peixe da nossa costa é saboroso, saudável e sustentável. Peixe fresco português, nada melhor. Em Portugal, há mais de 200 espécies.
Se nós não formos cuidar do mar, depois onde é que vamos tirar a nossa rentabilidade para as nossas casas? Acho que é um bom projeto. e devem todas as embarcações aderir ao projeto.
Once again, welcome back for the last panel, this first day of Expo Fish Portugal, and somehow we will be summarizing the day and also list the future. I'd like to invite on stage the representative of the main associations in the industry for fishing, as well as ZEP. I'd like to invite Manuel Tarre, who is president of ALIF, Rodrigo Souza, director of ANICP, National Association of Cannery Industry, Paulo Mônica, who is the president of the Association of Codfish Industry, Francisco Avalela, president of Portuguese Association for Agriculture, João Zorino, manager for the Blue Economy. We can have a warm round of applause to all of them. And now, please, if you could take a seat. I have a series of questions that I'd like to ask each one of these representatives here. The associations also here. I'd like to hear the opinions for the 4 representatives of associations. Since you're here right next to me, I'm going to start by you. And then, after everything that we've heard today, this afternoon, if you had an opportunity to develop the policies for this industry, what would you do? I have other questions, but let's start with you, with Francisco Vilelas. If you had this opportunity to develop public policy for this industry, what would be your main suggestions? First of all, I'd like a shift in paradigm and policies regarding what's been seen by the institutes associated to the environment, and also the activities and commercial aspects of this industry. We've been focusing on providing excellent practices that are superior and much more environmentally friendly than other European partners. In other words, we follow the European rules, but then we add 2, 3, 10 more aspects to these policies, which in the end, for the market abroad, the international market, doesn't really mean anything, because here we have these good practices already in place for a while. Then we notice that we are not able to broaden our national production. It's really tough to overcome this barrier, which are the 20,000 tons of seafood in general, shellfish as well. And then the Mediterranean countries have a substantially superior production when compared to our production. And then we understand that we are letting go of our food sovereignty. And from all the fish that we're missing, I'd say 400, 500,000 tons that we import for fish, a large amount of this come from countries where we have no ideas what are the practices, policies in the production. We have excellent practices. We should support our national production. We should understand what are the good practices that are in place, meeting targets. We live in a country where the targets or deadlines are just an indication. This is something that has to change. We should also have an understanding that we shouldn't exchange our food sovereignty with food from other countries, supply from other countries that we don't know what are the good practices? We don't know the policies. We don't know what types of food rations are given to these to the fish. And so all of this we have at very high standards here in Portugal in our industry. So I'd like to start by changing, having created a shift in the mindset. So working with the Portuguese Agriculture Association and others that work with us, we have lots of different activities in the public maritime domain as well. Sometimes it seems like we're creating more complexity for things to move forward, but no, we are not shifting. What we're doing is already done, but what we're doing is to improve our production, but then we are not able to produce more, and then we have to produce import from other places. Don't follow these policies. So I think we should start focusing really on how to broaden our production, how we should follow these policies. I mean, you think we have our policies are much more rigid than the ones that we import. Is that what you're saying? Yes. And you think this mindset should change? Yes. Aquaculture is not really my piece of cake. I don't understand this. No, but just these three aspects, the questions, it's the same questions to all of you. If you had an opportunity to develop a policy for this industry, what would your suggestions be, and what would be the essential changes in your point of view? Throughout these democracy years, many associations were created. And managing these associations themselves is crazy. So, to answer your question, I'd start from zero. We don't need all these people focused in the sea and oceans. Many of them don't have any knowledge to help us with this. So I think, answering your questions, I think first we should shrink and focus on professionalism, technicians that really can help this industry grow. There is a lot of people, but we need people that are capable, people that make a difference. And these people often, because of political aspects, are set in a specific place, but they don't understand anything that they're supposed to work on because they don't understand about this. And I do apologize for being so straightforward, but I think either we train these people or we organize these people in a different way, but we can't have often these people here with some lack of knowledge really working. That's what I think. Now, as for importation of products for aquaculture, maybe in your area that's how it works. In my area, that is not how it works. All the products that we have here coming from different regions around the world are all looking at this. We really do not have this issue. But now back to Portugal. The different agencies that I work with, the different institutional levels, over 30 years ahead of the association, I see focused people. I see people capable of pushing forward their board of directors, their areas to good places. But I also see that the focus often must be very clear politically. You have to know where you're going towards. Often these exchanges, even from ministers and other secretariats, make it so that the focus is not clear. So people get lost in how to make decisions, really. It's like a family. We have to have a clear guidance to where we're going. Often this is lacking with everyone that we're working with, especially within public organization. We have to know what is our objective and how we're going to get to the end of the day. In my company, this is something that I really like promoting, and I like it when most of the days this happens. So this providing, spreading of values would be wonderful. So to put together, these people are for this, for that, these people cannot do this, these people get training, these people sent to other areas. So we shrink our group of people with the same guidance, same values. so that changes can happen. For us to reach our goal, we have to know how to get there. What is the path? And I do apologize. I'm going to go back to my company. If a person comes in my company and they don't know what they're doing, this is completely off scope. It's not possible. It's just one aspect of this definition. The country does have potential, as I just stated. We have potential for extraordinary things, but we need leaders, we need direction, and people who know what they're doing. I'd like to ask you the same thing, Pedro. If you had the possibility of developing a policy, what would you do in your case in the industry you specifically work with? Thank you for inviting me to participate in this panel. And I would like to I'd like to use Francisco's works. We have some of the same problems when we created a sort of bilateral commerce, but it's still necessary to understand that we're both in the same field. It's not worth it to open up to a market that maybe has different policies that are completely different, and we want to keep our level of policies and practices. It won't be really effective. I also think that some of this should really have some determinations and some policies in place in terms of ports. At the same time, reducing the inequalities to those who come into our industry. With all these opinions, always these issues related to policies, public policies and governments. What would your suggestions be to reformulate the industry? Do you think this also goes by the political scope? Once again, I'd like to thank the invitation for being here today. And yes, the answer is yes. Because I think Manuel really did provide the point of view that the industry for processing fish has this horizontal point of view. But regardless, I would like to go a little bit beyond and making maybe a diagnosis here of what are some of the issues, the aspects within this industry that may cause issues. First, the ports, harbors, and the mandatory obligations. I would list one or two aspects that are here with this reduction with the compliance. The high levels of the sanitary licenses. Recently, we had in the whole system going through an informational process. It could have been summarized, but in the end, it really does have lots of flaws and does cause issues in the daily operations for the companies that wish to export. The cost for the certifications suffered changes. You almost don't notice exactly why this was created, because for the transportation unit, the cost went by container to producer. So that means that a company that would have a combined transportation with 4 different products from 4 different producers will pay 4 times more. The costs also from the inspections, physical inspections, were previously in the sites, the manufacturing sites, are also an aspect, an issue, because they also weigh heavily on the whole commercial activity for these companies. Relative to the exportation, Manuel spoke about this. We do have a lack of technical personnel with effective knowledge to be able to make these operations run swifter. and the costs go higher up because often there isn't even enough amount or skills. And so the costs for the containers and merchandise to stop, it really does make costs up because the free time is short. And so there's a lot of costs with the importation and exportation costs, and this have serious consequences to the quality pricing of the product. I'd like to mention an example, a company that's associated. They had 15 containers to dispatch. They were all ready. And in one day, they were able to dispatch only 2. So each container is a dispatch. So it would take 7-8 days to be able to dispatch everything they had. This brings the industry to support hundreds of thousands of euros only to be able to deal with the aspect of exportation. It is really something that weighs heavily. Another thing that it causes issues are the enormous costs with logistics. We are now facing a lack of logistical offer or standards. Currently, we do have an enormous large logistic operator that works only in Porto. And so it's almost like there isn't. It doesn't exist. The consequence of this is higher prices due to the lack of competition. Apart from this, this operator allows themselves to create shifts which will change the shift. So this actually does not make it that the deliveries will be scheduled on time or delivered on the time they were scheduled, which is an issue. I could list many more aspects, but I'd like to mention the energy or electrical prices. This is an aspect that is directly related to the whole country and the economical context in which our companies have to operate under. Codfish and all the other refrigerated frozen products in general need depend on the energy and electrical energy to be frozen, and this ends up weighing heavily on the costs of production. The idea was proposals, ideas, suggestions. I think I might have 2 or 3 ideas. One would be to broaden the port capabilities. So to have new ports dedicated to and capable of operating this type of products. For example, the port in Aveiro, the port what we have there currently is just kind of like a cluster of the process of salting the codfish. Also to make the flow of the merchandise easier. Now, more related to the economical operators and administrations and policies they are obliged to focus on the interface between companies, economical operators, administrators, and the state demands involved with this international commerce, import and export. Another aspect would be to the competition between the logistical players to be more dynamic. Also, the cost of production, specifically electricity, be dropped. You were also saying that you think that the demands were very much related to the government and what can be done to improve your activities. Next question to all 4 of you again, and I'm going to start by Francisco. The rest of you can think of the answer. In your opinion, how can you commercially value and improve the products from the fishing industry? In aquaculture, it's mainly communication. It's what we've been trying to do and push forward our main objective starting next year. Because very recently, we transformed what is our association and our operators into production operation starting next year. And in this way, we'll be able to have access to the European funds, which is used by all of our similar players in Europe. We've organized here in Lisbon the general meeting for aquaculture producers, and so you have an idea of the size. Last year only, just one communication project from Promar, which is our similar in Spain, had 1 million euros in funding. And in Portugal, we still have what is our activity based on the associates quotas, together with some fund resource that we have, but still very far from what our partners, similars, have throughout Europe. So that's what we will be working on. That's our focus, work on communication. And also, you were talking about products and commercial value. In the first panel in the morning, you were focusing on communication, right? Yes, exactly. So for us to have for larger companies and also companies that are being able to assess what we're running, and the industry has been trying to organize, as I was saying in the morning, the small companies, the small partners, to be able to put together good logistics. We've been having success in this with some examples and case studies. And with larger companies, broader dimension, we'll be able to reach to our audience who are our consumers, and they need to know what aquaculture is because, of course, because this is a relatively new sector compared to farming or livestock, for example. This is a part of the learning curve, and of course, this is essential. I'll come back to you. Manuel Carré. How can you improve the image of these products? The companies that are out in the market currently, for them to impose themselves and get their own share, they have to be attentive to what's going on. May it be the packaging or how the product is in, may it be if it's cardboard, if it's two packages or not, if it's a bag or not a bag. We have to know. We have to always be looking out for the trends. But it's true that the support we've had from the government have somehow been improving, been levering some of the growth. We went from a lower degree to around 1,000 million. In one of the previous panels, we were mentioned that there is no timing. Some of the companies that I follow here, and one of them is in Barcelona now, people purchase within a line because that is part of how it works. If you're going to export something and then you deliver late, well, most probably you won't be able to do that again. So Portugal's image is doing better currently, mainly because after so many tourists visit our country and want to go back and try some of our food, and they go back and then they want to eat the same type of food, even if it's not coming from specifically Portugal. This, I think, is the only business activity in Portugal that will import a product, work it in the factories, and then export it. There is no other sector or industry that does this. So we have around 175,000 tons. So we consume part of this, but around the 400 or so are imported. An important part of this is transformed or redressed here in our factories and then exported from port. That is what makes difference. This is what we should value. And we can value this through the image and the consistency with the rigorous processes as we have here with all the different businessmen that are here within the core of their companies. There's no other way of doing this.
Valorization requires communication, so we have to do an holistic work. We have to ensure that at national level, namely for canning industry, it is seen as being of quality, healthy and sustainable. It is the only way through tourism, being a channel of sales outside. We have a joke about the Portuguese cans. It is our fifth sales channel, saying, I was in Lisbon, I saw your product in the airport and I want to buy. I'm speaking about the US. I bought at the airport in Lisbon and where can I find it here? And this is important regarding added value products. But this is not enough. We have to really look. We have been doing a work to value their products in the several markets where they are. But there is an holistic work to be done, valuing the Portuguese market, but looking to the Portuguese cooking habits and styles to sell the Portuguese gastronomy. We have to take advantage of the tourism. Many people visiting Portugal wish to replicate or to live and eat again what they ate in Portugal. Paulo Monica, communication or sales. Communication is key. Tourism has really given great visibility to the Portuguese products, namely to codfish. Codfish is specifically the fish. It is the species that we eat more in Portugal. Our fishing possibilities with the Portuguese fleet don't exceed the 10% of the local needs. The remaining 90% have to be imported. Portugal is the country that eats more salted codfish in the world. So codfish has a great expression. Those who come from abroad, tourists, at least have eaten at least once codfish. Then to export to their countries is difficult because then they don't know how to cook. The Central European citizens don't know how to cook salted codfish. Of course, we always have exceptions, but they will have difficulties in cooking the codfish. But communication, tourism, and the big market is the Portuguese market. All this is key. The industry has exported in 2023 1,382,000 tons with 184 million euros. The traditional markets for the exports of Portuguese codfish are the countries where we can find Portuguese communities and the Portuguese-speaking countries. Despite some barriers, I understood during the previous panels that Brazil and the European Union, Brazil is the destination of codfish from the Portuguese companies. It is the country that imports more codfish. So to improve the image of the products, fishing products, and codfish in particular, the greatest involvement of the government and of the administration in the promotion of the Portuguese companies in the destination countries, in exports, mainly in the Portuguese-speaking countries and in those countries where the Portuguese communities have a big relevance. The presence in events and fairs is important, as already said, but maybe there is a need to involve governmental agencies, namely ICEP, who maintain a presence in the destination market. So we think they could involve themselves more with the local authorities in those markets. George will have the opportunity to reply. Last question that I have for the three of you. After today, where we discussed the different markets for Portuguese fish, what would be your bet for the expansion of the sector, and which markets do you consider more promising? I don't want to look having lack of ambition, but if we do the next ones well, I would be happy. France and Spain, yes, for logistic reasons. We are still in a stage where the companies are growing, so all the operating costs are relevant. Given, and because we are speaking about fresh products, we don't have an extended waiting time. When we speak about the market, we think about closed markets. We don't think about Japan, for instance, it's very far away. So trying to do these closer markets and closer countries with whom we have a good relationship to ensure long-lasting, sound and trustworthy relationships. It's like this we build the market, and then to really have a credibility image, because if we don't do well with those with whom we already work, we are seen as competent. So this is good. What we are doing, where we already are, the work we are doing is well done. Fairs, when we go to fairs, fairs are visited by 50,000 people, and we have already realized the difficulties we have. Most of what we export is manufactured in Portugal. When one of the clients, we have to be transparent. When the market buy from us a product, we have to add value. Otherwise, they go directly to the source. This is the reality. Throughout the last years, with IPMA, we did some work over the last years together with DOCA Pesca. The omega-3 of the Portuguese population, this is a work that was unique in Europe to measure the impact of omega-3 in the health of Portuguese people. From the north to the south to the islands, it was interesting to realize at the end that if we have at least 1 meal or 5 or 6 meals a week of fish, the likelihood for radiation is reduced in 43%, and cardiovascular diseases as well. The impact it has in health is huge. This perception is the perception that the world, step by step, is having. Animal protein is harmful, and sea protein is the most is the healthier protein in the world. Portugal doesn't have a good purchasing power, allowing us to buy the fish at any price. If the price is very expensive, we don't buy it, and the fish has to be sent to other destinations. If we go to Japan, Japan is a very demanding market. They eat a lot of fish. It is a great challenge for us to go there, yes. But it's good to go to see and realize what we can do as innovative, because if we go on a trip without goals, it's not good. I have to have a goal. It's very good to go on holiday. I would prefer to go with a different person. When we go and visit the market, we have to have an agenda. What Portugal is doing at export level surprises. I could never realize we could export so much. Codfish, canned food, we are together as never before, and probably we will be able to meet the objectives that we have set to bring Portugal to more markets. In the case of the cannery industry, we have discussed successful cases. What market should be a priority? We are an industry oriented to exports. It's our reality. We have always been as in the exporting market. Mr. Freitas has an ambitious goal, 2030, to have invoiced 1,000 million euros. We need support to meet this target, and we really believe on that, because there is potential and there is demand of our products abroad. At medium term, we are consolidating the European market. We went up with gourmet, and now we will continue growing, and we believe in the ongoing expansion of the US market. Let's see what happens next year. But it is a growing market, and we want to really take advantage of Osaka 2025. It's not easy. It's a very competitive market. It's not easy, as I said, but I believe that companies will be able to get this opportunity and go to Japan and grow there in a more sustainable there. There is a lot of support to have a sustainable growth there. And there is a need to do sustainable work and take this opportunity to grow. Paulo, you mentioned Brazil as a growing market compared to other markets as far as codfish is concerned. Are there other markets? Yes, there are other markets. However, the Portuguese codfish industry is facing giant challenges short term regarding storage or supply, sorry. The offer of codfish, of raw material, next year will undergo a serious slowdown. Just for you to have an idea, an association between Norway and Russia, the figures have been declining to 340,000 tons, less a decline of 40%. 10 years ago, the fleet amounted to 1 million tons. So this is going to raise challenges in the supply. Next year, maybe we could think about a large-scale export. Not large scale, but I would say that selective exports and a bet on mature markets and on a more added value, namely the industry expect competition in salt cod fish markets, probably will be a market to avoid, to let it to others who have better access to raw material, and to focus added value cod fish products, innovative products in Portugal. Brazil was last year the destination of 56 million, account for 46% of the total of exports. Given the dimension and the importance it has, Brazil will continue to be the focus of the Portuguese companies in the export markets, trying to maintain the market share they won, namely selling to local Portuguese communities. And then the industry continues to show resilience, competitive capacity with high quality products perceived by the markets and with affordable prices in international markets. Very well, João Zorrinha was very attentive to listen to you. João, as manager, as Blue Economy manager, sector manager, what are the policies and value propositions that ISAP has in place to support the blue economy and the Portuguese fish sector? Thank you very much for the invitation. We have 12 sectors with aquaculture, production of fish. This sector is followed by the agro-food sector as well. ISAP considers this as very specific sector, and there are specific funds to support exports or internationalization. We are working together with Doca Pesca. We had today 2 speakers, 2 entities, Interfish and the Spanish Association, who work here today by invitation of ISAP. Tomorrow they are going to speak some Doca Pesca selling places. So we work together with Doca Pesca to decide the speakers of this event. This is just an example. We were involved in several actions. I was listening very attentive to the several presentations. ISAP has 2 essential roles: promotion of the internationalization of the companies, but also we have the costs in projects of national interest. So we have a division to assess the cost of any specific context. We are acquainted with the investments that aquaculture needs. We aim to bring investors in this area, but until now we didn't have the conditions to be attractive. Now, with several contributions, we had a meeting to support the investments, and now coming together with the state and many other agencies, all of them, if we are able to find a better solution to solve these blockages. There is also a problem with the customs. ISAP doesn't have the solution, but the ports themselves and the port authorities have. They told us and they reported, and this meeting is going to take place in order for us to be able to overcome this problem. This year, As I said, we have several projects and actions. And next week we are going to have on the 10th, Tuesday next week, there is a visit of our President of the Republic to the Netherlands, and he's going to speak about the blue economy. We are going to be attending this event on blue economy. We will be having several presentations, but then the companies will do networking this year. Well, let me go straight to the question. It is a fact that fish is the agri-food product with the largest share of Portuguese exports and with great potential for growth. Will ICEP support this growth potential with more investment and support for operators in priority markets? As I said, investments are made through our operating project, which do not involve the fish producers. There is a regulation limitation from the start. We had 3 people from ICEP, 2 from Japan, 1 from the US. We are fully available whenever we have the possibility. What I advise is to enroll at ICEP. They will have a customer manager or director, and we will be supported free of charge, and also advice in regulation. And also we have training sessions on how to come to the Netherlands. The sector is not yet fully using the possibilities that you have. We did e-commerce, could be logistics, product capacity. Most companies are from the agri-food sector, so we have a big demand from this sector. Just to tell you about the investment we are going to do with IEP and Doca Pesca, we are going to bring 2 missions, one in January, another in February, potential investors in Portugal, one in agriculture, fisheries and refrigerated products. This is a mission that is about to be closed, and we will bring importers in sea bioresources from the Baltics and not only. And we spoke with Doca Pesca and others. We speak a lot with those who give us knowledge. We are going to organize a number of webinars with Japan. We have to prepare ourselves. Our pavilion is about the oceans. We will have 3 dedicated to the sea. To bring companies there, we will have to have a return. We are organizing a number of webinars, 3 webinars on 3 themes of blue economy, bioresources, and to bring these companies here. This is what we are trying to do. Surprise me, please. Questions from your side, from the audience. I would like to believe that this is really a praise to my moderation, because we were really very good, so you don't have questions. Thank you very much. Let me finish with something positive. We have had the support from the C2030, the lack of subsidies or funds. We had 100% national coverage, and I am speaking about the benefits of the consumption of fish. This is what was outstanding. We had the support as well of to pay for the costs of COVID that supported companies. These things are extraordinary that we must thank. Thank you for looking to us as entrepreneurs and for the support. And international affairs are also paid 50% by the C2030 program. Last year, we had the visit of Mrs. Dina and Luis Souza, who went to Barcelona to understand the complexity of what is the Portuguese presence in the exhibition and to see the force of the Portuguese exports of fish. Not that we are not in agreement with Spain. Maybe things could go even better if we were all focusing the target. Thank you very much to the five of you. A round of applause to our guests. So we end our first day of Expo Fish Portugal. Thank you to the speakers and to the audience here and remotely. Tomorrow we will know the prizes of the finalists, and at the end of the day, the three winners will be announced. You are invited to join us here in Algés or online. Welcome. See you tomorrow.
É o nosso Portugal. É geograficamente privilegiado, sendo o setor do pescado considerado um dos setores mais importantes da economia. Este é o nosso mar. Um mar imenso, repleto de memórias, tesouros e sonhos. O nosso peixe é um forte pilar na qualidade da gastronomia portuguesa. Temos o compromisso de respeitar o planeta, assegurando a sustentabilidade das próximas gerações. Bem-vindos à 4ª edição da Expo Fish Portugal. Uma oportunidade única